please.
Ben?
Here.
Mary? Here. Mike?
Yes. Here.
Rick?
Here.
Marty?
Here.
Nancy? Here. And Jeff?
Here. All right. Lisa, just real quick, I know the next thing is the meeting minutes, but looks like we have a guest here and we are videotaping. So could you kind of give us a quick rundown of what's going on?
Okay, so for now on, the meeting, or the planning commission meetings will be videotaped, and you'll be able to watch them on TV, and our meetings will now be on the fourth Monday of every month.
Okay. And that's on the agenda later as far as the time.
Yes.
But so everything will be recorded. Now, will we get a transcript still for our minutes?
Yes, yep, so they'll send it to me within a day, and then I'll go ahead and transcript everything in the minutes for us.
Okay. All right, thank you. Next item up for business here is the planning commission meetings from our last meeting from 6/21. Does everybody had a chance to review them? With any corrections or additions, changes? All right. Can I get a motion to approve?
I'll move that.
Support. We have a move and support. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All right, motion carries. Additions or changes to the agenda, do we have any?
No.
All right. Communications?
No.
Public comment. So this is the portion of the meeting where if somebody from the public would like to comment that does not have anything to do with on the agenda tonight, now is another time for you to be able to do that. Does anybody have anything other than what's on the agenda they'd like to talk about tonight? Mr. Lee?
I have some comments on the article that was in the paper relative to the thing, but it's not relative to the sign.
Okay, if you'd like to step up to the
Can I
podium.
do it at the end of the meeting?
Well, now is the time where we do that, so
Okay.
would you like to chat with us after the meeting?
Yeah.
Okay.
That'd be fine. Yeah.
Okay, and that would work too. All right. All right, new business. The first item we have is that we are changing the planning commission dates to the fourth Monday of the month, starting next month. That's so that we can have the recording and be on TV, and still make it so that if we do take action, then it can be something can be sent to the township board immediately after. Kind of what we've been trying to do. So I think it's more informational than anything else at this point. So does anybody have any questions about it? Sounds good. We'll keep moving. The first thing in new business is a rezoning request for Randy Wise at 4082 West Vienna Road. This is a public hearing. So we will, can I get a motion to open the public hearing, please?
So moved.
Do we have a motion? Do I have a second? Second by Mary. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say the same. Motion carries. The public hearing is now open at 5:33 p.m. So is there somebody here from Randy Wise that would like to talk? If you would, please go to the podium. If you could state your name and address, and then let us know what you're here for.
Thank you. Pat Parker from Simon Figueroa and Parker, 5206 Gateway Center, Flint, Michigan. I'm counsel for the applicant, and Randy Wise is the manager of the entity that has a purchase agreement out for this property we're asking to rezone. It's Wise Man Realty. I'm going to speak a little bit. I also have Chris Wise, who's one of the principals in the Wise Automotive Group here tonight. He's going to talk about the business matters that are sending them out to look for a larger place of business here in Vienna Township, and how that fits into their automobile dealership. But we are asking for rezoning for this parcel so that they will be able to develop it into a larger dealership for their Chrysler dealership in the future. We did see, when I looked at the matters that were online for the application today, the letter that came to the township from Goodwill and from Mott, and it showed that there was a misunderstanding to some extent. We intend to purchase the property if we can get the rezoning, but we understand that the leasehold interests of the people who are there now are going to 2026. We're not going to touch it. They'll be there to stay through the whole end of the lease. We'll work and make sure that works out, but we don't have any intention whatsoever going in and trying to shorten the lease of the folks who are there now. So they've got a long period of time to make this work out. And we now hear from other people that there may have been some thought on their part that we're going to try to find a way to throw them out as soon as we got past and closed on the property. That's not true. We'll just wind up standing in the shoes of the landlord for the rest of their lease and start getting our approvals and work onto it in that particular fashion. I'm going to ask Chris to come up and talk just a little bit about where they are and what they've looked for and how long they've been looking for someplace to get larger here in Vienna Township. Thank you. Chris Wise.
Chris Wise, Randy Wise Automotive Team, 2530 Owen Road, Fenton. Since we purchased the dealership in 2013, we've really outgrown the space. We really, at the request of Chrysler as well, or at the encouragement of Chrysler, they've really tried to ask us to look at different properties, basically to expand, to start to cater to the growing sales and service business that we've had over the last 7 to 8 years. We've looked up and down, up and down this strip. Obviously, primarily, this is where we want to be, and there hasn't been really anything that remotely would address the size and scope of a dealership that we would need to continue to do business here. So when this came up, we looked at it and we said, this is a great piece of property. It keeps us in town. We don't want to leave the town. We don't really want to leave the street. It gives us enough more space. And again, when we, like as Pat said, when we hopefully purchase this property, we aren't doing a single thing for 4.5 years. We're just going to act as the landlord, and nothing will happen. So we had no intentions of speeding up and having anybody move from the property. So we thought that was a good situation for everybody, and so that's just where we're at. We don't really have we don't have enough space where we're at right now. If you drive by it or through it, our lot, it's really tight. We can't put any more cars there. We can barely service any more cars there. We purchased the lot on the side street a few years ago just to hold more inventory, and that has certainly helped. But this property would really allow us to do not only what Chrysler wants us to do. Chrysler really wants a bigger presence because we are growing so much. Wants a bigger presence in Clio, but a nicer facility to kind of represent their brands. So that's kind of what we're trying to do with this.
Okay. One question of clarification.
Yes.
The application stated that you wanted to go from C3 to C4. What we actually advertised for the special land use was to go to C2. Is it correct that you want to go to C2 at this point?
It is, and I'll answer that. I think both C4 and C2 have automotive new car dealerships as uses as of right. But when I talked this afternoon to Lisa, she explained to me that the C2 really worked better for here, and then you had done the advertisement on C2. And that's fine with us. I told her she could make the change in the application form.
Okay.
She did.
C2 doesn't allow by right, this allows by special land use. So it'd be an actual meeting that you have to come back through here. We can verify that, but I do believe that's correct.
If you don't mind for a second, let me take a look at it. I thought it had said that it was.
It states that that used car sales and auto sales are allowed. It also states later that it has to be a special land use underneath. So it's an extra step. But
Is there a problem with us? Again, we're not going to start construction right now. We're going to start planning and working with Chrysler. Could we come back in for a special land use after the rezoning now?
Absolutely.
What's a couple years in advance?
Absolutely.
Just so we know for sure before we close that we have that ability to use it as a new car dealership.
Absolutely.
All right. And am I understanding that the reason that the township thinks that's more appropriate than C4 is because it's not really at the expressway, it's not an expressway corner business. And C4 is really intended to be the expressway area.
All right.
All right, thank you.
Are there any questions from the board?
Why would they have to come back for a special use for C2?
It says that down here,
Oh, you can see that.
we're in C2. So principal use is permitted,
Yes.
and then use is permitted subject to
Oh, because of
approval.
the one list.
It looks down here and it
It's
says,
listed on here.
yeah. So it's just the way the ordinance is written, and that's one of the things that we have discussed that we would like to clean up as we move ahead.
I'm looking at the same thing. Okay, so you're taking the position that where it says the use is subject to special approval, outdoor sale space for exclusive sale of new and secondhand automobiles, house trailers, that's the same use as the one they describe in the principal permitted use, which is new and used car sale, showroom, and office.
So it says that it's allowed, but then down here, under
This is C4.
C4, right, if you go to C2.
I know that according to special use, but C4 does not.
Yeah, C4 does not, but C2 does.
Okay. All right. Even though they use different language in describing the principal permitted use in C2 and then the special land use in C2.
I can't say that it was written exceptionally well. That's just how we understand it. Now, we can, if you'd like, as we move ahead, we can also reach out to our council to see if that is something that they think we have to hold to. We're just trying to make sure we do all the procedures properly.
No, that's absolutely fine. That's, well, we want to make sure that we're locked in and everybody's nodding their head in the same direction before we buy the property.
So we'll find out what happens. If we recommend for approval, then it's probably going to be a yes. And if we don't recommend for approval, it's
Yeah,
probably
might
no.
Thank you.
So, are there any other further questions from the board? You? Okay.
So where are we with our master plan? So this is the old one. So that particular property, I'm curious where we are in the master plan and what we want it to be zoned for, and if this coincides with it.
Yeah,
So if I look at the old one, like the one currently right now, the way I look at the master plan, right?
right.
And I don't know that we're making any changes if you look at where this is going.
Yeah, we didn't.
Yeah, with the major changes, then I don't think we're allowed. So when we look at this, what it's showing me is that, and I'm not sure which piece of property this was referring to, whether it's going to be shopping center commercial, or it's going to be, looks like highway commercial.
It says highway commercial.
Yeah.
It's hard to color, yeah. I mean,
This
the lighter color
property.
red would be highway commercial.
Yeah, I believe this property is shopping center commercial.
And I think that seems like shopping center commercial will fit better with the current one. I'm just trying to ascertain if you know, here's the deal with zoning changes, to recommend a zoning change. It really has to be on, not so much what the individual, I'm sure Randy Wise is going to build a great dealership there, but we have to be able to accept that the zoning change is going to allow, if he changes his mind, anybody to build anything that's allowed in that zone. So you have to consider all of that.
Correct.
Not just this, I'm sure this will be great, I have no issue with that. It's just that we have to accept that at the last minute, you know, we're not going to build a dealership there, and then we got to deal with everything under that zoning classification that would be there. So that's what I'm kind of looking at to see where the best fit would be, and then make sure it goes along with our future land use plan.
Now, to answer that, typically C2 is less intensive than the C3. And it's odd because normally, like we were looking, because typically anything in a C3 would allow a C1 and a C2, but the ordinance doesn't state that. That's why we're here. Normally, an ordinance says you're C3, you get to do C1, C2, or C3, because that's what your zone. But the way this is written, it doesn't state it that way. So that's why we've asked, that's why we've discussion, that's why we're here for the rezoning.
Right.
Now, and I looked at that, I also looked at the C4, and the only thing that I think could be objectionable in a C4 that they wouldn't currently be doing there is a gas station. But we do have gas stations just across the street, so this is not like we're changing the atmosphere of what's there in that quarter mile of road. So.
And that's what I'm asking. So if I'm going to look at this, as long as it meets what our master plan is for future land use, or we're going to have to modify that, or we need to. And you have to look at the C4, which exactly fits what they want to do, and then see if everything in there is acceptable for that area versus what it is now, which is C2.
Now,
C3.
The issue is it was advertised as C2, so we can only vote on whether or not we're going to allow them to go to, or we recommend for them to go to C2 or not. If we think that C4 is better for them, then we'll have to request them, we'll probably have to table it, request them to come back and re-advertise. So this is the time where we ask questions. It sounds like you haven't answered one of the questions, so go ahead.
We don't have a strong opinion C2 versus C4. When we originally applied, we made it C4 because I thought that was the specific classification. When I talked to the township this afternoon, he told me that C2 fit better and you advertise as C2. We don't object either way, whether it's to adjourning this to the next meeting and re-advertising under C4 or proceeding under C2, as long as we can come right back and get our special land use. Our goal is to get full approval before we buy the property.
Right. If we recommend to go to C4, no special land use would be required. And then once we place our recommendation, then I believe it's going to take 2 meetings from the township board.
Right.
First reading and then a second reading for them to actually take action to complete a rezone.
Right.
What else you got?
I'm just curious why, if they applied to go from C3 to C4, why we advertise C3 to C2?
And when was it advertised? Because the information that was given to me still says states C3 to C4.
Right. If you look at the advertisement, that was actually emailed or sent out. It says C2. So that could have been a mistake on our part, or it could have been that, Lisa, did you have a conversation with them?
Randy Collins wanted it C2,
Okay.
so that's where the C2 comes in place, and then on the paperwork it says C4.
So correct me if I'm wrong, but I think what happened is they submitted under C4 because they thought that was best. And then with discussions with us here at the township and the administration, administration felt that C2 would be a better choice, so it was advertised under C2. For pretty much what Ben was talking about, future land use and what would you like to see in that area and what you can do in a C2 versus a C4. Because in 10 years down the road, if something happens to the auto industry and they decide, Randy Weiss decides to get out of the automotive business, they could sell it to a gas station, right? If they wanted to. If it was C4. And somebody could develop a gas station on it. I mean, that's something we'd have to determine because it's in perpetuity. So if you change it to C4, then anything, like Ben said, anything that's in that range can be changed to. What else you got?
That's it. I think the zoning, I mean, it's a recommendation of the board. We don't actually make the change anyway. We make the recommendation. I'm not against the for C4 necessarily. Still everybody meets the master plan.
I don't think that,
I'm not saying they don't.
yeah, it is kind of odd because we have highway commercial, we have general commercial, and shopping center commercial. And I think highway, general commercial is a little stricter than highway, and highway is a little stricter than shopping. But we'd have to it'd be kind of nice, instead of saying these things in general, if we actually listed what we want them to be, like C1, C2, C3. Kind of. And that's a
Well, some of
planning
it's
commission.
splitting hairs. If I look at these items on here, 1 through 9. Is everybody seeing that?
For what, C4?
Section 1405. Yeah, C4, 1 through 9. I have an issue with any of them. It's a big space there. That kind of stuff kind of fits. I mean, you're splitting hairs.
A lot of it is kind of odd, and we can talk to Caitlin about it, because C1, C2, and C3 are really similar in general, except for a few items.
I guess here's where I'm going is, we can special land use things to death. Special land uses for when things just don't quite fit in order. They just don't quite fit the zoning, so we do a special. This absolutely fits in the C4. Here's the time to make it so it fits, so there is no special land use.
Yep.
I mean, they gotta come back for the plan, they gotta come back for all this stuff, right? Come back for any of it. I mean, this is all out. I think I would be leaning more towards the C4 thing for me. It just fits exactly what they're doing.
So I'll come back for questions here in a second. What I'd like to do is I would like to open it up for public comment. So this is the first call for public comment. Is there anybody in the audience that would like to talk about this issue? Okay. Any other thoughts? I have to ask do public comment 3 times, so I'm going to try it. All right. This is the second call for public comment. Is there anybody that would like to talk about this? Okay. Any more questions from the board this time? All right.
I do have a question.
Okay.
Like everybody else, I heard that you were moving in and Goodwill was leaving and Mott was leaving, and I'm pleased to hear that you're going to let them stay to the end of the lease. But I have to ask, is that in writing somewhere?
I think the leases have actually already been agreed upon by the current owner.
I can vouch for that, that's true. You will.
Oh, good, okay. Good. I'm glad to hear.
This will be my third call for public comment. Is there anybody in the public that would like to comment on this project? Okay. We will close the public comment. Is there any other discussion on this issue?
Well, it's your call on what you want to allow here. Are you going to allow a vote for a recommendation on C4 or just what we have? Because that's your call.
Yeah, at this point, I've been educated in the past that you can only vote on what was advertised.
That's true.
Because if we say C4, then somebody's going to say, well, I was okay with C2, I'm not okay with C4, I didn't show up because you misled me. And I'd rather not have that happen.
Because once we printed it out there for the general public, we have to go with what we've stated.
If I could just interject, I know it's probably past time for the applicant, but as I'm sitting here listening, I've been convinced by the vice chairperson that C4 really is the zoning that we should have. And what I hadn't really thought through is we're really not in a position at this point to go out and get significant plans done, which we might need to have for a special land use. It makes more sense for us, even if it means you have to adjourn and republish and we come back and see you next month. I think that makes the most sense for us.
I agree.
I think there's a little difference here. It's up to the chair what you want to do. I think the difference being is the one time that I can recall where something was advertised one way and then it came to the meeting and it was changed at the meeting. The person wanted to change it at the meeting because they thought it fit better. And so they went back to what, they changed it at the last minute and their feet were held on fire and they went with the original description of what was advertised and actually what they applied for. This is different because I think they applied for something completely different than what was advertised, and I'm still failing to understand why it was advertised differently than what they said. When you say Randy, are you talking Randy Wise?
Yeah, yeah.
When was this, after we already,
Oh, no, this is before all this even come about. He had called and then they had got Joe involved.
That would have, I think, been before we actually filed the application.
well, just for me, it just fits better with C4, with the way things should be done, so we don't have to go down with special matters.
The other option, so the idea of having a special land use for certain items is that they're allowed in an area, but you got to make sure that that specific, and you can also ask for special things in the special land use where you can't once a use. So you could say, hey, yeah, you can have your special land use if you work with us on a couple of items. Kind of, you can't be egregious, but you can ask for a couple of things. I
get it, that we should address those items that we feel are, that need to be addressed, so there's not a snafu where you have maybe a goofy colored roof that you don't like. Because, if that's not in the ordinance, and you can have that goofy colored roof, you can have it. So if you don't like goofy colored roofs, I guess you need to spell it out in the ordinance, so you can't have it.
Right.
We don't have that, so but this is an absolute direct fit in my mind, and I just can't see it.
I think something we should probably take into consideration is what is the township board's flavor? So from what it sounds to me, from the discussions we've had, that nobody up here is egregiously against this. Everybody's going to have their own vote, and you can vote up or down when we do that. We understand that. But it doesn't sound like anybody's really against rezoning this and for the future use. But the question is, the planning, we don't make the decision, we just make a recommendation. So if we make them wait a month and we recommend C4 and the township board is going to be a little more, well, we don't think it's C4, but they think it's C2, then they could probably rezone it anything they want, or can they only rezone it what the applicant asked for? So if we recommend C4 and the township board comes back and says, no, we think it's C2, do we go through the process again, or can they just say, well, you asked for C4, we think you can do C2, there you go.
I believe it's just a yes or no vote.
Yeah, it's both
They
requested.
can't suggest.
So
Yes or no?
it's a yes or no. We had something come across where we talk about being advertised to the general public, and we had an RFP, and they said, oh, we're just gonna wait, we're gonna do this next time. It's like, no, we advertised that we were gonna make a decision tonight, we had to do that, so that's what the board did. So if we're advertising one thing, we need to either go with that decision or change it and have them come back and leave it at C4, or that's sort of, but since we're not going to say yes or no, as in give them approval, it's still going to go to the township board. I believe that we can change it to a C4. Like it fits better than anything else, but that's up to the board. Because it's going to go back to the township board anyways, so.
We feel that the township board isn't going to have an issue with the C4 as much, or as a C2.
Hopefully.
Hopefully.
I'm not going to say one way or the other.
Okay.
I won't do that.
I just want to make sure we're not creating an issue for them by changing at this point. But
Yes.
Okay.
Or, and listen, if we don't change the zoning at all, C3 currently, right?
Yeah.
And C3 currently allows for a lot more things than before, potentially. But it also lists colleges, private schools, operating for profit, some of the things that are there, retail, stuff like that. Then you get down to the special land uses, the only thing automobile related specifically is automobile service centers. It doesn't say anything about automobile sales.
Right.
I'm just seeing if there's a way to do a special land use, keeping it the way it is now, but I don't see it.
When I had conversations with the township attorney back before we made this application, that was the discussion, that C3 really doesn't match a car dealership. It's got service centers. This is not a service center, even though we're going to do service. This is a car. So that's why we came in and requested the rezoning.
Okay. So in a second here, we'll close the public hearing. And we'll take a motion. And I think from what I'm hearing, that the motion most likely should be that we will table this to the next meeting so it will be re-advertised as C4.
Yeah. That's
Does that sound like that's acceptable? And it's not going to have an issue with your timing of purchasing the property?
We'll have to get an extension of the purchase agreement, but I think that's reasonable. Thank you.
Because even if we do that, and then it got asked for the township board, and I don't know how long the purchase agreement's for, so.
Well, frankly, we're waiting until we found out how many meetings we had to go down the road. I know it's not next week, we realize that.
Okay, okay. So that'll take 2 months,
Right.
Yeah.
once it gets to the township board.
Yeah. And are you still twice a month?
No, we meet once a month.
Once a month?
We meet once a month,
So it's going to be 3 months.
yeah. So it's, we're in August, no, yes.
Yeah, we'll actually meet in August, and then the first reading will be in September, the second reading will be in
You'll get
October.
your answer in October.
Okay, all right.
It'd be the second Monday in October.
Okay.
All right. Can we get a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved.
I have a motion, do I have a second? We have a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say the same. Motion carries. We're closing the public hearing at 5:59 PM. What is the flavor of the board?
Yes,
Do I make a motion that we table the issue another, advertise for another public hearing then? And maybe advertise it as a zoning change? We have to say what we're changing it to, but then we're gonna recommend a zoning change. We may want to go back to, I get out of here and I learn some
No,
things.
that's
I may
exactly
want to
what
go right back to
changes
C3, or 4, so C2.
I don't think you can do that. I think you have to advertise what the zoning request is for.
because it affects, but that'd be great if we could word it that way.
Okay, but technically, we could probably make a recommendation of the township board on the zoning request at any time. So we really don't even need it.
What's your motion? Run the motion and we'll amend it if we need to. Your motion is to table so we can re-advertise?
I'm wondering if I get money, unless you're not gonna let me, I'd make a motion that we recommend to the township board that they rezone it to 4C4.
I don't think we can do that.
Well, we don't think we do it, we will be out of order, and then I can't make that motion.
Well, you're half in a motion table, so are you going to finish that motion?
No, I will, so you're not gonna, no, I'm not gonna, I withdraw my motion unless somebody else. I think we can make a motion at any time to recommend to the township board anything we want, that's what I
Because
think.
we're
We
not
can do
making
whatever
a
we want.
decision, it's the
We
township.
are not
board
making a
that's
decision, it's a recommendation to the township board, so, you know
I
what?
think you're right, John.
It's your call.
We're not spending money. If it was something like that, we're making a decision on hiring a company, that's different.
I think we,
Since this is,
you
yes.
know,
Can we just say yes to C2 with a recommendation for the board?
It is a recommendation anyway, isn't it?
yeah,
Yes, it is.
we had a public
I say we
hearing.
go with C4.
Well, I tell you, are you okay if we, so honestly, I don't know the answer to that. I've always been told, go by what's advertised. I think the board is interested in providing a recommendation.
I think he's got it.
Jeff?
Hi, everyone. Jeff Harrington from the Herald. And I just want to interject here. I don't know at whose request or direction the change occurred. I pointed it out at our BDA meeting last week. But when I talked to Mr. Wise a week ago today, he told me that they were requesting C4. And I pointed out to him at that time that no, the advertisement was for C2. And having in view of the fact that there's really no opposition here tonight, evident, I don't know why you would make them wait till October.
I just don't want to do something that is inappropriate, that's going to cost you more time or more money than that is this issue. If you think that, and here's the thing, it's not going to be a problem until somebody can test, right? And if nobody can test, then we're okay.
Well, I would think if you would be willing to go forward with the recommendation for C4, we would still have time for you or us to get to the township attorney, and if he thinks it's improper to go to the board with that recommendation when it was published as C2, then we'll be back on and request me at next month's meeting and publish. We won't have lost any additional time. We'll just
Sounds
see if
wise.
we can get that.
All right, I'll entertain a motion.
So we explained to him what this is.
He said we should go ahead and give it a try for the C4. We'll go and ask the attorney, the township attorney, if we broke any rules, and if he says, no, you didn't, we're good to go. If he says you broke a rule, we'll advertise and we'll put them on the docket for next month.
So we're gonna try to get forgiveness versus permission. Okay.
So basically, we're trying to save him 30 days.
Yes.
Yeah, the other thought that I had was, I hate to argue with myself, but if we don't follow the correct procedure, that's fine, we can recommend anything we want, but then the board's gonna run into a problem where they're taking a recommendation that didn't have a public hearing attached to it. And I don't know if.
The public hearing was attached. Well,
Not to a
it was
C4
public hearing,
recommendation.
right? Well, we had discussions about whether it should be C4 or C2 during.
You could say we just.
We held a public hearing. Hey, you convinced us that we should do the C4, now you're trying to convince us we're not supposed to
I
do
like
the
this so
C4.
much better when I was on Zoom. Listen, this township
You could
really
say
wants.
we.
Is somebody else?
I will make the motion that we request the change from C3 to C4.
And I'll second
At the
that.
recommendation, our recommendation to the township board be from C3 to C4.
All right, do you have a second? Yeah.
Because that's what the application was. Let's make sure that's in the minutes.
Absolutely,
This
so
isn't
I'll
something-
amend my motion because that's what the original application was for C3 to C4. So we're going to stick with C4.
All right. So we have a motion that we recommend the township approve the rezoning to C4 because that's what was in the original application. Right? So do you agree with that?
Yes.
Okay, do you agree with that as a second? All right. So we have a motion, proper motion, made and seconded. Do we have discussion on it from the board?
I would like to see the motion say something about, because we thought, after talking it over, we thought that,
Well,
Well, that's why
That's
we're
exactly what
recommending
C4 is
I
written
know,
as,
but-
yeah.
It's in the minutes.
Not that we just, in the
It's not
circle
legal.
would change it.
it. Yeah.
You'll be on TV tonight.
Yeah, that's right.
Would you like to amend your motion?
No, I don't think it's necessary.
Okay. All right.
I
Any
mean-
other discussion? And if you're not willing to amend the motion, that's okay.
It's, I don't
Listen,
think,
you got it, you did good.
yeah.
Mine was declined.
Just discussed.
I'm fine.
Any other questions from the board? Can we have a roll call, please?
Ben,
Yes.
Mary,
Yes.
Mike,
Yes.
Rick,
Yes.
Marty,
Yes.
Nancy,
Yes.
and Jeff.
Yes. All right, so we have recommended to approve C4 to the Township Board. It should be placed on the next Township Board meeting for the first reading, I believe. And then after the first reading, on the next meeting, they'll actually take action.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
All right, we have no old business at this point. Is there anything else that you would like to discuss for the good of the township? So do you want this to be on record, or do you want to be off record after the meeting?
I don't care.
It's your choice. We'll either end the meeting in chat, or you can be on TV.
Yeah, let's just chat.
Can I get a motion to adjourn? A motion to adjourn? Can I have a second? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
The meeting is adjourned at 6:06 p.m. Thank you, everybody.
Hey guys, how are you today?
Good.
I'm here to talk about how with technology you can make amazing worlds. Come with me. My team and I groomed the Halo world to life.
Is that you?
That is me. I wasn't a math genius and I knew nothing about coding. But you guys do. You guys have the power to change things.
I want your job.
I want you to have my job.
Because of you, I felt hopeless.
I know it was a joke, but it still hurt me.
Because of you, I felt wanted and not alone in this world.
Because you said hi to me on the first day of school, I felt included and I knew that I was going to be okay.